Hey, folks. Before we get started, I wanted to take a minute and to thank the folks over at the Virtual Armed Forces for joining me a few weeks back. It's often very difficult to get everybody together at the same time to record an episode, but they were fantastic and got everybody together and joined in. And we were able to put this episode together for you. That being said, I also want to say thanks for the time that they spent with me personally, putting together two missions, flying both missions. They put me in the front seat of the F-15E. They put Home Fries in the back, and that was a pretty fantastic experience for me. Everything went off without a hitch. But anyways, I wanted to say thanks to them for investing the time and effort. We're going to try to put some of those videos together that we can put out here on the channel that you can take a look at. But it was a ton of fun. So if you're looking for something to expand your DCS horizons in a squadron or multiplayer, definitely take a look at the Virtual Armed Forces, these guys. I'm very grateful for them joining me today. And we got a handful of topics that we're going to talk about today. But I figure let's go around in same group that we had last time. Let's see, have them introduce themselves, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I guess I'll start. I'm Nick Lisney. You guys may know me as Wadiz, and yeah, I make no apologies. I like Dune. And I've been with the VAF for about a year and change now, and really found a home here. And my background is I'm Royal Canadian Air Force, 32 years, 125 days, not that I counted. And yeah, that's me. Love what I do. I'm retired now, living the dream.
Very cool.
Sky Barca, Deacon in DCS, and I've been with VAF for about 3.5 years now, and former Navy. Of course, I fly the Air Force jets mostly now, just so I can tease the Navy because I know all the good ways to do that. But been really enjoying my time here.
All right, Don Humphreys, Home Fries, and that was also my call sign. I was U.S. Navy for 9 years, and that's what I got from about 10 minutes before I had my head shaved for the first time. And yes, I do like Nick likes Dune. I do like breakfast starch, but that is not why I got the call sign. It is actually a play on my last name of Humphreys, and so there you have it. And I've been flying with the VA since pretty much close to the beginning. So. Yeah, happy to be here again, and looking to have a lot of fun the next hour.
Good afternoon, Brian Allbaugh, call sign Albee in DCS, and I've been with the VAF probably close to just after they started in the beginning. I don't know the total number of years, but Rob, appreciate you having us back, and enjoy our visits.
Very cool. Well, one of the things that we talked last time, and Albie, you and I were chatting earlier this week, and it sounds like you guys from the last whether it was from our last episode, that a few people had reached out, and so you've got a few more people that have joined up.
Yes, sir. We got 43 active right now, and Rob, you're going to be 44. You just haven't, in the next 2 weeks you'll be 44.
I would say I am 44. I just I've been absent. But yeah, so I'm going to be active in the next 2 weeks. That's great.
Yeah, looking forward to having you join us. Just to give you an overview, I did a little count. We got to keep people organized. We got to have a spreadsheet. Just a few engineers in the group. We got 10 on the admin side. The F-16 squadron has 15 folks that are currently active. The F-18s have 13 folks. The 15 have 10. And the A-10s have 6 folks for a total of 43. And like I said, Rob, you're number 44.
Well, that's fantastic. So it's been, and one of the things you mentioned was that it's a little bit of a strain on the system, getting the new folks in, indoctrinating, getting them ramped up. So
yeah, seemed like after Christmas it got a little crazy. Sky, you can. And Diz, y'all can kind of comment since y'all are IPs. It got a little sporty.
Yeah, it used to be a slow enough influx that we didn't really have a formal process. Right? We had documentation, we had block guides for people to go through, but it was manageable with a small number of people to do everybody individually, and the different instructors could kind of step in wherever needed. We had so many people come in that we had to formalize that more, and start tracking people in a way that everybody could look and say, I helped 5 people last week. I don't remember exactly which 5 or exactly what was done, because it wasn't just one person and steadily progressing them through. It was 5 at 5 different spots in their knowledge, and then the other IPs need to know that. And I think we've managed to put a little more responsibility for the individual airframes on the instructors for that airframe, rather than everybody kind of covering everything. And
Now, do people just, when they show up, they go, "Hey, I'm a mosquito guy"? No, I'm just, or how do they end up in the airframe?
Well,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Don.
I was going to say they choose what they want, and the way we look at it, we've got a welcome guide that has all of the airframes that we fly, and just say, okay, this is what this plane does. This is what we do. So some people want to show up. Hey, I've got this and this and this. What do you want? And we're like, hey, what do you want to fly? And sometimes they don't know. We say, that's fine. Fly what you want to fly with the initial blocks, because the initial blocks are all this. I mean, they're not all the same, but it's consistent knowledge throughout. You fly the same pattern work, you fly the same formations, regardless whether you're in a 15, 16, 18. So, we say, fly what you want for the blocks, and then decide what you want to fly for primary.
Yeah.
If that's what floats your boat. But a lot of guys are just like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So if they come in and say, I want to fly Hornets, they can fly Hornets.
I think it's
What did you
important,
say
whatever they're most interested in is the way to go, even if it's not the one you're most proficient in. The thing that you're most interested in flying is what's going to keep you coming back and keep you invested. So figure out which one.
Does anybody ever
is like
jump
that.
back and forth between multiple airframes? Or
Oh yeah.
What day of the week is it? No.
Yeah.
But for regular missions, we stay in one, and then we have our Throwback Thursday, and it alternates between a Cold War scenario and the Sinai that Deacon built, which the F4 is going to be a lot of fun to add when it comes out, and then also Normandy map.
I know Cold War, Brian and I will jump in the A4s and have some fun, or sometimes I go back to flying the Tomcat just because it's just a fun bird to fly.
Yeah, it's a hard aircraft. As we were talking about before with my kids, being 9 and trying to go in on this, the last thing I want to do is put them in something like that. It's about fun for about until they yank back and then the wings go and it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Get themselves into a flat spin. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just look at me like, what? So, but it sounds and you say, what was the breakdown again? What are the majority of folks in?
Seems we have 15 in the F-16 squadron and 13 in the F-18 squadron, but the F-15 is 10, and we have several Wizzos primarily and pilots, so we'll be able to have no issues putting up a 4-ship fully crewed on the Eagles.
Very cool. And when the folks come in, and if they're interested, they say, hey, I'd like to be a Wizzo, or they'd like to be a pilot, or do they go back and forth on that airframe?
Yeah, we told people, hey, we wanted to cross-train you, because knowing how to be a front seater will help the front seater and vice versa. And the systems are identical. It's just a matter of how you employ them. That's completely different, but for at least the F-15, we'd say, yeah, well, if you want to train both, we'll cross-train you in both, because that just gives us more flexibility. Tomcat, the same way, but those are completely different stations.
For sure.
So that's the main difference, but again, same logic applies. A Rio that knows the front seat will be a better Rio for the pilot and vice versa.
And I'll say for the 15E is a great training platform.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to get in the back seat and have all the system, have the displays, including the HUD repeater, and just being able to talk through the person in the front seat, see what they're doing, talk them through it. You can take control and demonstrate it to them. It's compared to everything else, I mean, there's other two-seaters, but this one has all the systems, right? And they all work and they're all consistent between the two seats, and it's a really, really good platform for training.
And I heard a comment. Someone I work with, their son loves general aviation. He is 14, and I've been talking to his dad about DCS, and he for his birthday he got a set of TPRs,
Wow.
and so he was
It's a pretty good birthday.
yeah, so it was a good birthday, and his dad was asking him about DCS, and he said, he goes he was kind of intimidated by it. And I told him, I said, well, there are some planes you can start that are a little bit simpler. Hang on, I got to edit that. There are planes that are not as complex to where you don't have to learn all the systems. So we'll see if he jumps in.
And actually, for that, I mean, depending on what they want to learn, the A4, excuse me, the A4, because it's free, is a great mod to basically just learn how to fly, and you don't have too many systems to fire up. The other starter aircraft I recommend is the Mirage 2000, I should say. That is one, not because it's simple. It's not simple. I mean, there's a sequence to start up, and you've got a lot of switches. But for a full switch aircraft, a lot of those switches are set and forget. You only have to do them once, and then most of it is just flying. It also has the best autopilot in the game and the best HUD in the game, so you can really learn how to. You can actually set the autopilot while you're learning the switches. You can set the autopilot to do what you want it to do. The HUD gives you all the information you could possibly want while you're learning. You don't have to look around for stuff while information's flying. And it's a fun plane to fly. It's fast. It can turn on a dime, but it will also punish you if you pull the stick back into your lap. It's a delta wing. So It teaches some good airmanship in that respect. So I think the Mirage 2000 is a great gateway module. Razbam, you can thank me later. We'll talk on the side.
Yeah.
Give me a custom skin for the F-15. I'll be happy.
Well, and it's interesting you say that because, I think it's a good segue to, one of the things we wanted to talk about today was as you get started in DCS. And so whether it's, what is a good approach from, whether it's a hardware, we were talking before of like, if you're a master at the keyboard, good on you. For folks like myself, I'd probably I wouldn't have the patience for it. But as you see guys coming in and gals coming into though I do think it's probably the majority guys at this point still, generally speaking, we're very inclusive. However, at the end of the day, I think there are probably more girls, but or more guys. I really need to cut that piece out, and I will. So, but but if you take a look at people joining, how do you normally address equipment and gear and getting people ramped up when they're just starting out?
Well, it kind of depends on where they are and where they want to go. If somebody knows, okay, I'm into this, I am sticking with it, I am all in, then it's like, okay, then we got a little different criteria than maybe somebody who's just dipping their feet in and saying, is this something I want to do? Flying looks cool, but man, there's a lot of stuff to this. For someone like that, we're not going to say, oh yeah, I got the whole WinWing suite and all this other stuff, and then they spend, the TPR pedals, $600 later for the TPRs, and then, a couple thousand for the WinWing. We're like, okay, this is boring, or this is too much for me. Okay, that may not be a great idea, but I tell people, depending on what you want to do, if you're not sure, well, don't try it with a keyboard and mouse. Despite the theory that you can do that, some people can, that is not a way to get yourself coming back from work. But we had a guy with us, he flew with a Logitech 3D, $40 stick with a throttle and a twist for the rudder. He flew with us for years with that. He eventually upgraded to the Warthog, which is, the Thrustmaster HOTAS. But while he was deciding, is this something I want to do, he did fine with the keyboard and the Logitech. The big thing is, I would say, get a head tracker of some sort, just because
that's good.
That is, you don't need to go VR. You don't need to spend the money on the track IR. There are free alternatives out there if you have a webcam. And I cannot speak on how well those work, to be honest. But
So there's a thing called OpenTrack, and it's an app you get on your iPhone. You stick your iPhone underneath your monitor, and it'll track your eye movement. I think it's $15 Canadian was what I paid for it. Do I use it? No, because I have Track IR. But certainly as a backup. And there are all kinds of different profiles that you can download and set it up. And apparently it works quite well. And all you need is like an iPhone or just a phone with a camera.
yeah, the big thing with DCS, especially, although like I mentioned, the Mirage HUD is so awesome, it has everything you need right there. But a lot of times, you're looking around all the time. When you're flying for real, you're looking around all the time. You're looking down, up, around. You've got a constant scan going. If you have to do that with a hat switch, you have to think about looking around. That's just one more step in frustration that you don't want. You want to eliminate that by getting head tracking. That's the first thing you should do after getting some sort of analog controller like a stick and throttle. And what you get depends on, okay, if you like it, then maybe upgrade, maybe go to VR or something like that. But take baby steps.
Yeah,
And if
and it depends on how I justified things to my wife. Like, hey, and again, there's an investment over time, and so to your point, what you got to be mindful of
Yeah.
household perspectives.
Yes, I'm married. I'm happily married. I wish to stay that way.
That's right.
But I've already told my wife, hey, when I make assistant professor this summer, I'm going VR. She doesn't yet know how much it's going to cost.
Neither do you, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've got an idea. I've got an idea.
It's a start on a fairly long journey,
Yes.
I would think.
Yeah, so let's go down that road for a second. What are you looking at in terms of VR? What's that going to? Or are you meaning including a video card or
Yes.
with a video card? Okay,
I'm still running an NVIDIA 1060, so that thing's going to chunk on VR.
Yeah.
And the thing I've been waiting for, I flew 3D back with the E-dimensional headsets or the E-dimensional glasses, the shutter glasses with track IR. That was back then the closest thing you got to VR was 3D with head tracking. And that was awesome, but it was limited. And the first gen VR stuff was like looking through a straw and at low resolution. I'm just thinking, I don't want to have to work around. I want the peripheral vision, and I want high enough resolution that I don't have to zoom in to look at gauges. And I think the technology is there right now. So I'm looking at going high end on that. I want the peripheral vision, and I want the high resolution. I want to be able to look and see where I'm going. And I really like the foveated rendering that takes the load off the video card. But yeah, I'm going to have to upgrade my video card as well. There's no point in doing one without the other.
And
So that's a good explicit point of going. If you're gonna, it's not just picking up the headset. You can go get your Pimax or whatever it's going to be, but you better have a video card to support it. So just be thoughtful about that as well.
And my thought, if I get a top end video card right now without the VR, I'm spending money that's basically, the video cards are going to cost less by the time I get VR. If I go VR right now without the video card, again, same thing. I'm spending money on a headset that I can't take full advantage of. So it makes sense to just do them both at the same time.
But it's only one step too. A big limitation that a lot of our guys run into with VR is that they can't see the keyboard. Right? They can't see the other controls that you might take for granted when you're using Track IR. So having a HOTAS with a lot of options on it becomes even more beneficial in VR because you can map more things to it. But the other thing a lot of our guys have found they really like lately is the upfront control panel, the MFDs, right? They can just reach out and feel what they're entering, which matches what they're seeing on the screen, but they don't have to actually see it. They can do it all by feel. So it's not necessarily the ones that are actually displaying the information on another screen on a MFD. It's more just for the tactile response that you can reach out and feel. I'm pressing button 2 on the top row of my right MFD. I don't really need to see what's on it because I can see on the screen what it's seeing, but I don't have to hunt for the mouse and move the mouse around or hit a button on the keyboard or something like that. So they really like those peripherals added into the VR headset to make it even more immersive.
I use the wing panels, and the landing gear handle's a biggie. It's nice. I can just feel it. I know where it is. And then I have a multi-purpose upfront controller, and you can swap out the panels. Although I can't read the panels, but you can swap them out. I have about 5 of them covers, and they just came out with one for the F-15E, and they had mapped the terrain following radar to the switches on the right. So it's real easy now to turn on the terrain following radar and turn the coupling off and on, as long as you map it correctly.
Yeah.
There's a reason we're laughing.
Yeah.
Is that? Well, no. I said to Albie a while back is that my inability to hear audio in the F-15E because Big Dummy couldn't turn up the volume.
Oh, none of us have ever done that, ever.
Yeah.
No.
About 1 in 3 times, turn the volume, or you get it about 70%. Yeah.
Oh, what kind of road did I go down trying to figure out like what the hell did I do with what's wrong with my the mic, right? So I'm diagnosing the computer when it simply was anyway.
I know
We've all done that multiple times.
Dual bound switches is one that gets people a lot of times. Like, how come every time I go to launch a missile, my landing gear comes down? Like, well,
well, and they're not, and it is true that some of those, some of your controls are pre-mapped. Just, or like you're using the trim switch, but all of a sudden the next thing you know, the screen now looks diagonally up. So because it's, to your point, it's dual mapping. It's not. It's a nice. You get to be an expert. It keeps you guessing. That's fun.
Yeah. Sometimes you just add another controller to the mix, or you add another plane and you already have a controller in the mix, and you forgot to clear all the mappings on the controller. So the next thing you know, your stick is going left and right. What gives? Or you kick the rudder, and all of a sudden your view zooms out. What's going on? You forgot to unmap a default controller.
So, but that's a big piece because, like, I remember when I first started, I was expecting all of it to just work, right? So is that would probably be one of the, do you guys, if you get somebody started going, hey, step 1, clear it out.
Yep.
Well,
don't say clear it out necessarily, but just know what you're doing.
Well, and we'll sit with people. We've done that a lot. Right? We'll get with a person who's, which aircraft are you mapping and what controller do you have? And so, we got to take a look at what buttons they have available and say, these are the things you're going to use all the time. These are the things you want to prioritize mapping. And we'll sit and we'll go through the whole exercise with them on mapping out commands to their available buttons or switches that they have.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So
that's
definitely something we help with.
Yeah, I usually take the guys through SRS and show them how to bind for each different aircraft. And of course, in SRS, they're all different for all the different aircraft. So setting up their unique profiles for each aircraft, which SRS does. If you hop in the aircraft, and today I'm in an A10, okay, and it'll come up with the A10 profile, which is different than the F-18, which is different than the F-14, which is different than the F-15. So whatever aircraft you hop in, the SRS looks at it and says, oh, okay, you're in the F-15. Okay, so these controls are now now bound. So, and they're all different.
Yeah. And the thing I tell people with the DCS control, the options menu, is it's intimidating. It really is, but it is the most flexible thing in the world when you look at it because it's a spreadsheet. I'm an engineer. I love spreadsheets. So does Albie. I know that. But you're just, okay, rows are the commands. Columns are the controllers. And if you just look at it that way, it makes sense. It's intimidating, but it makes sense. You just look at it one column at a time.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun when you got 12 input devices too, 4 MFDs, a throttle,
but you have the flexibility to do all that. That's the important thing. You're not stuck with the first DirectX controller Windows sees.
That's true. No, it's great that you can do that.
And once once you've done it once and you've seen it once, it's like, oh, okay, I remember how to do this now, and it's not so intimidating.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever export the settings and then re-import them?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So once you have it,
You
Back
have
it
to
up.
back them up. Yeah, you have to back
Yeah,
them. Every time I change something, I'll back it up. Because then when you get a patch and it changes all your bindings, it's like, what? Wait, what? Okay, and then
Well,
you
even
just
even an import doesn't necessarily fix it, but at least you can see what's different.
yeah, you have a
And
base.
I tell people make sure you do a backup of each column, each controller.
Yep.
Each column on the spreadsheet is a different file, a different Lua file or diff Lua,
Yeah.
Very
and
cool.
that
So go ahead.
I was going to say that's by design. That's good design.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think as a, when I think about people who are getting into it, and you look at and a new aircraft comes up, and it's been one of the things that's been it's a bit controversial. So, for example, with some of the wing stuff, it's got labels on there, and so assuming you're not in VR, that when people come in and say, because you can't see it when you're in VR, but you look at the labels, and but if you take a look at you know some other gear, it's not necessarily labeled, it's more generic. But I think most people, when they get it and say, okay, this switch is going to be for landing gear, excuse me, and then regardless of what aircraft it happens to be, so you're just mapping it as you fly different ones. um, but yeah, it's interesting. So Albie, you've got all the MFDs.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm kind of I kind of like my controllers, but I fly in VR, so it's all by muscle memory. So
Mm.
I have these quick releases which mount on the bottom of my throttles. So in a few seconds, I can swap out my throttles between the Thrustmaster F-16 throttle and the Warthog throttle, and then also with the sticks, I have different bases, so I can use the F-18 stick and then the A-10 stick, so I can swap out. But
Very
everything
cool.
has to be muscle memory, so you learn where everything is. So it's good to have sit in the same place every time. I have after the show last year, the expo, the sim pit, I was like, why
Yeah.
didn't I do this earlier? Because everything's the same, it's all configured, it's in the same spot, and I try to map everything the same for the planes as much as I can, because it's like playing two different instruments, especially with the HOTAS.
Mm.
In
Yeah,
the 16, the command might be one thing, and then the 18, it's something else.
that actually turns out to be quite critical because it's the muscle memory sort of thing.
yeah,
Like on my, I have my Thrustmaster Warthog, and on every aircraft that I have in DCS, the data management switch, if I use an alternate function, it's always the zoom, like zoom in, zoom out, and zoom reset.
Mm.
Always. That doesn't matter what aircraft I'm in. Kneeboard is always the alt function paddle switch. Doesn't really matter. And a lot of guys are on that pinky switch on that. That's nose wheel steering. No, that's my alternate function. I just move that to somewhere else. So that's maybe a little non-standard, but for all of my aircraft, that's the way it works. World War II aircraft all the same. World War sorry the jets all the same.
yeah. That consistency is really important if you use multiple modules, because
Yep.
even if it's a HOTAS command that say should be on a specific hat for that airframe, if it's on a different hat for all your other ones, just move it to the other one. And it will just make more sense to you to do the same physical movement for the same result in the sim each time.
Mhm.
And that'll make it a lot easier to do multiple if that's, if you are bouncing in between multiple modules.
Very cool. And so when somebody joins, right? And so someone joins VAF and you want to get them going, what does that look like? What is day one, look like for you guys getting somebody up to speed and joining, and how does that happen?
First thing that typically will happen is they go into the welcome channel. Hey, welcome. Hi. XYZ. Not ZZ because I'm in Canada. So
Yeah.
we'll go through. Okay, what stuff do you have? What aircraft do you want to fly? Okay, I want to fly an F-15E and I want to be a Wizzo. Okay, so that he'll probably either come to myself or Home Fries. And the first thing I'll do is, okay, fine. Do you have SRS? He will get you set up with a very basic. Let's get the comms set up. Okay, so they download SRS. I run them through getting themselves set up on SRS. Okay, let's hop in the jet. This is this. This is this. This is this. Okay, what system do you have? Are they bound? You need to bind these things up. And I'll spend maybe 2-3 hours with them getting themselves all bound up until their brain is mush. Okay, fine. Then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll try the same thing. Okay, let's get in the aircraft. We'll hop on my server, and just go on my SRS server. Okay, let's go. Press your mic switch forward. Remember we bound that yesterday. Okay, click, click. Yeah. Okay, so now you're talking on SR. Okay, and they're all happy then because at least they've got the comms sorted out.
Yep.
Then we'll okay, let's start getting all your stuff bound up. Then we'll stick probably Deacon on them, or Striker, and they'll start going through their block one is how to start the jet, and how to get the thing airborne, how to maybe get the thing on the deck. Block two is different thing. Block three I think is navigation. Block four is form. And we just start going through that. Once they're done that, there's an announcement made on Discord saying, yeah, XYZ has now done his block 1 to 4, and then if he's coming to F-15s, then probably myself or Home Fries will start taking them on doing the block 5 and 6, which is air to ground and air to air. And then once they're done that, then they get their nose art. When they're done block 1 to 4, the prize is you get your own skin and you get your name underneath the cockpit.
Yeah, you get
That's
your own
really
jet when you pass block 4. So you go block 4, you say, okay, I gotta fly Hornets. If you hadn't decided yet, and it's like, all right, I'll cut you a Hornet skin.
Yep.
And usually one of us meaning one of the instructors, Rob, will send them a message after they've shown interest and kind of picked out the airframe. We'll send them the block guides, which are just some basic documents they can read through just so they have an idea of what it is. The block 1 through 4 really just so that everybody in the VAF is understanding the way we do things, right? How do we do comms for taxiing? What's our normal pattern procedure? What are the formation names called, and what do they look like? Just so that we all have that same basis of knowledge. And then once it gets to the individual airframes, then it gets a little more specific on how we deal with people. But one of the challenges is we'll get a person come in who's got thousands of hours in flight sims, right? We got another person who comes in going, hey, I got a HOTAS for Christmas because I've been flying my
keyboard.
I've been flying Microsoft Flight Sim for the last couple months and was excited about it. So with the high volume, we get all of those different skill levels in at one time. So we kind of have to tailor it to each individual person. Before it was a little easier because it was generally one person at a time, and we knew we had to start very basic and ramp them up, or if they were very experienced, just teach them the way we do things. Now we're doing multiple people and multiple different levels pretty much every day.
That's pretty cool. But I could imagine, I think to your point, that when somebody shows up and they've got one person has all these hours and they're like, hey, I know it all. And then the other one, and they know a lot, not that they don't, but the other person doesn't know anything. It's got to, but at the same time, you still all have to be able to talk the same language.
Mm-hmm. And we learn from, we're hoping they learn from us, and we learn from some people too, right? I've flown with some guys that came in, like showing them how we do maybe a certain type of attack, and they're like, well, I've done it this way, and you watch, like, that's really great. We haven't even tried that before. Let's do more of that and explore that. So
now do they ever come in and they ever come in and you go, you're not cutting it. You're out of here. No, okay.
No, not really, because we've all been there, and again, in previous life, I've seen guys that, okay, you're really kind of a waste of air right now, but you work with them, and all of a sudden the light, it's so cool to see the light goes on, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, I get this. And it's such a cool feeling as an instructor to see your student, all of a sudden he gets it. And then typically they just it's like a rocket. They just take off, and they live, breathe, and, and it's just so cool to watch. And, we'll work with everybody, for months, years, if necessary, just to, if they want to learn, we're here to help them along there. And I've had students in real life that are really, really talented, but just don't care. And and they don't do so well. And I've had guys that are not talented at all, but will put the work in. And, I will work, I'll work hours and hours and hours with them to get them, to where they feel comfortable. It's not necessarily where we feel comfortable, it's to where they feel comfortable.
That's
I think
exactly it.
it's the attitude far more
Yeah.
Oh
than
God,
the
yeah.
skill. Like if you've got a good attitude, really don't worry about your speed of progression.
Sometimes you get the guys that come in that have the thousands of hours, and you get into, well, you're wrong. And it's like, okay, stop. Okay, just stop. Okay. Learn our system first, then try to change it. Okay. But if you're not interested in learning our system, then okay, well, maybe we're not a good fit for you. And then,
and that's okay too.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
I'm not going to wait.
We
we
do not have
standardize.
rank.
Yeah,
We
but we standardize stuff that's. I mean, in the real life, the Navy and the Marine Corps do something one way, and the Air Force does something completely different. And we have to standardize across that. So yeah, there's going to be. I don't want to say compromises, but we do certain things one way just so we have consistency across the board.
Yep.
Yeah, like I say, learn it our way, and then see if you want to change it.
Yeah, our interest is what works, right? If it works, great. If it something else works, also great. You add it to the toolbox. If something doesn't work, then we probably don't need to keep beating our heads against that idea.
Sure. Well, and Scott, you mentioned one of the things that I thought was great when we were talking before, that you had somebody start, and that without naming names, but it's just from a zero to amazing. So, and how satisfying that is.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a guy that hadn't really had much aviation background at all, and was just really interested in learning. And he picked the 15E, which might have had a little bit of urging from certain people on this channel. But he picked the 15E as his first really like flight sim experience, which is a complicated bird. And he has had such a great attitude the whole time, and he's really interested and really enthusiastic about it. And he's gone from, barely being able to taxi around and get the bird off the ground, much less back on the ground. And now he's doing night TFR loft bombing. And that's 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the kind of progression you can make in a short period of time when you have that attitude that, he's really enthusiastic about it. So
That's really cool.
And being in multiplayer, you may be stuck on something. Some jumps on, they show you how to do it. So it really, because there's a lot to learn. There's always something to learn.
Oh God, yeah.
With DCS, so it's continual learning. Diz we're going over the targeting pod on the 15 Wednesday, and he told us that where it's looking is the top of the diamond. Well, I always thought it was the center of the diamond on the TGP. I've been doing it wrong for years. I had no idea. So, you're always learning something. At the top of the diamond, where it's looking.
We learned something about CDIP bombing just the other night when we were talking about it. I'm like, holy.
Yep.
Yeah,
if you blow through the auto release, it'll go to CDIP, and then it'll hit where you pick on it. It'll pick right away.
It's like a CSIP death dot, basically dumb death dot instead of
that's right.
Calculated death dot.
Yeah, you got to wait till the TREL disappears, and then you're in true CDIP mode. But I mean, even for myself, 2 months ago, in the F-15, I was getting pretty frustrated with it because every time I tried to land, I would land short, and I would stall, and I would go all over the place, and I was going, okay, this is shite. And then I said to Deacon, help me out. And one flight, it's like, yeah, okay, well, you're way too slow. I'm going, really? And now, okay. So that it was just one. Well, there's other problems too, but there's just one thing that he just picked up on right away. And it's like, okay, great. And then last night it did the absolute eye-watering landing, and they were like, even that and passing the peanut gallery of home fries and areas, and they were like, wow. That actually was a nice landing.
He nailed it. That was a night ILS, and he basically greased it. Didn't even wake up the baby in the back.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Deacon, so when a student we got a new student, so y'all communicate through Discord on instant message each other to schedule a time to fly. How do y'all do that?
So we have used to be kind of just there were two of us that did most everything. Now we've kind of pushed it out to individual squadrons. Don and Nick do most of the F-15 instructing, but we have everybody in our Discord that's colored purple is an instructor. So we just tell people, whatever you want to learn, message one of us, right? If we're the wrong person, we'll bring in the right guy to schedule it with you. And we try to be as flexible as we can. We'll work out a time with them. We'll just meet up. We'll do some ground overview and then go do a quick flight, and then review it afterwards. So it's very similar to, I think, most training you'd find in the aviation world. But I know we try to keep it interesting. The brain can get saturated pretty quickly on technical bits. You can only point out so many buttons for them to press. So trying to make it entertaining and have something fun as a goal of each training flight, and then go over it at the end. That's our normal individual training process, and then we schedule group training throughout the week, and we'll usually pick a subject, BVR air to air, or buddy lasing for laser guided bombs, and those are scheduled and everybody's invited.
Is that more difficult if you're going to go BVR and you're talking about it if someone's an F-18 versus an F-15?
Not really. The techniques are generally the same. The effective techniques are the same. Some aircraft are much better. Like the F-15 is an absolute beast at the things that make it or make BVR effective for the blue aircraft that we fly. So it can be. There's subtle differences, but it's the systems that are different, right? How you're manipulating the systems in the 15 versus the 16 versus the 18 are all slightly different. And that's where we try to have people learn that on their own or one-on-one with an instructor. And then for the group training, it's tactics, one-on-one tactics, 2v1, 2v2, things like that. And that's where I think it gets fun because it's cooperative. You're having to work with somebody else. And that way you each learn how to enhance the pair so that you're much better than you're worth 3 rather than the 2 that you would be if you were just 1v1.
It's funny. I was watching the Mover and Gonky show some time ago. I don't know if you guys watched that, and they were talking about different like radar is going to have a different capability. So your 15 versus your 18, and I think Gonky had said something like, "Oh, the 18's radar was always generally like picture clean." Because it just has such a difficult time.
That's awesome.
So,
nice.
The real world 18 guy, but and again, but as you learn to use the different tools, and that's pretty neat. So because I was curious about it, and one thing we had talked about, I think it'd be a lot of fun to do, is to actually record, and I'm happy to do, maybe this is one of the things we look at with me, is start recording me in the seat, and then here we go, and here's what a day one looks like for a new guy, and kind of do that. That'd be fun.
You'll need the bleeper handy when I start swearing at you, just so you know.
Yes.
We have the splainer. The splainer, it's the broom handle, explains how to do things.
That's my wife. I won't find anything offensive considering my wife and how she's like cusses like a sailor, really, really nicely. She's a treat.
Make a sailor blush.
She's not here right now, so I can say these things.
I know they say
you got that
swear
right.
like a sailor, but geez, Marines take it to an art form. Holy cow!
Yeah.
One of the training scenarios Sky built was for Nevada, so he's got 4 areas for us to go to and practice. So we'll all get in. Let's say Wednesday night is typically training night, and we'll brief what we're going to practice, and then we'll go up in pairs, and we'll each go to a different range, north, south, east, or west range, and practice. And so that's a fun one, and practice our tactics and cooperative. We were on the Syria map. We have the sandbox maps that Deacon worked on, and in different areas. So in the Syria one night, Don and I jumped in and we took off. We got on the radio, and Sky was flying with Montrose, and we talked about where we were going, and they provided cover for us. And So Don and I are busy getting ready, to make our attack run, and Sky calls me on the radio and says, "Hey, you got 2 MiGs?" And I go, "Where?" And the next thing I know, I look out the window to the left and I see a black cloud about 5 miles from me. So they saved our bacon. We went in, destroyed the tank farm, and we're having some issues dropping one of the bombs. And I called them. I said, "How much playtime y'all got left?" They said about 5 minutes, and they hung out with us to protect us. I think y'all landed on fumes that time, but it was a lot of fun, just
Yeah.
a pickup mission. So we do cooperative support.
Oh, we
That's cool.
bagged those targets too, and then
Yeah.
was that the night that we were having technical issues with the radar, and we were pointing in the right direction but couldn't light it up?
Which time?
Yeah, and somebody had cloud cover, which made it a challenge to visually find the target in the cloud. Not calling any names. That made it a challenge, so we had to approach from I think the southwest to be able to see the target area to make our run. And so we're trying to get our run finished, and we knew they were short on fuel, so we were communicating how much time you got, so it put pressure on us because we knew they were going to have bingo and have to go home. But we were able, I think that's when we dropped 4 of them at once. I think you marked the targets for because we were running out of time. It took us longer to find the
I can't
target.
remember if that was a JDAM or if that was the one where we basically
It wouldn't be.
blinked all those
JDAMs.
BTRs. Okay.
It was the storage tanks.
Okay.
That wouldn't have been in. Oh, it would have been in Syria then.
It was in Syria, and it was intense because I knew we're running out of time because we're going to lose our cover, and I'm sure there were some MiG-23s that would have liked to have pounced us.
But
So
hey,
that was
as
intense.
long as we get one pass and we can mark those, JDAMs will take care of the rest. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, we dropped 4 of them in that one pass, which was pretty cool to do.
One pass haul out.
So Sky, do you primarily stay with Nevada in Syria, or which ones do you, as a master of maps, what do you choose to stay with?
It kind of depends. When I first started doing the mission designing, we already had a pretty fleshed out Caucasus map and PG. So those have been more just maintaining them. We actually had to rebuild the Caucasus map one. It was such an old mission file that there's a lot of things in there that weren't working. So that's in process. But
They're working
honestly,
now.
I like
Especially
the
those
variety.
generating MiGs.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I like the variety. So Syria is one that's it utilizes the entire map. There's a lot to do in there. We can put the Syria map up and people can fly on it daily and it'll last for weeks before they get all the way through to the end. But we have some for South Atlantic, Cold War scenarios in Sinai. I use the Nevada one for training, I think, just because that was the standard before. And a lot of people do have that map, but there's nothing specific for it. I think the different maps all bring a different kind of feel to them. The ranges in South Atlantic are very long, so it's more of a resource management. Syria, a lot of the ranges are pretty short. Other ones intermediate, but it's what I try to do is a slightly different feel for each map, so that those of us that fly a lot don't get bored, for lack of a better term. And different scenario, one will have mostly as modern a weaponry as we can find and modern aircraft. Another one might have fewer of those or older versions. So people that are more beginners can go into those and still have fun without having the top of the line red aircraft coming after you all the time. So it's just maybe a slightly different flavor for each one, but mostly just trying to keep things entertaining. We do have people that fly just about every day. And so keeping that kind of sandbox mission entertaining is my focus.
And then there's also the throwback Normandy map as well. If you guys want to do
Warbirds.
We'll pull that up by request. And I mean, if you guys want to fly that, that's fine too. And that can be challenging, getting those old war horses off the deck. I've still got a request into Deacon for those of us who are takeoffitly challenged to maybe an air start or two.
So one thing I mentioned to Albie is that, I don't know, one of the guys that we work with for Authentic Media, which is sort of the overarching, is Brian Sunshine Sinclair, and he's going to be putting together with another guy, Scott Roger Chafian, um, a bunch of World War II BFM tactics,
Oh wow.
and so they're going to be
wow.
doing that in DCS. And so that is we're trying to get everybody set up, and so trying to get the right computers and everything else. But they're going to be recording that and putting that out on the channel as well. So that'll be fun. And so part of what I'm hoping to do here is get them onboarded with you guys so that they can get going. Now, and again, Sunshine is a former test pilot and everything else, but in aeronautical engineer, but he loves to teach, and so while he wants to kind of go back towards some of the World War II stuff because it's less sensitive than some of the other things. So, but I imagine a lot of the same concepts are going to be really cool and fun to do. So that's coming.
We find a lot that we'll fly in the Warbirds, and then the next time we're in the jets, we're like, this is easier now. After having to do everything, not necessarily that it's easier to do, but it enhances your ability to like visual spotting. A lot of times, I think in the jets,
your
people
head out of the cockpit.
you get head down and looking at all the systems, and you forget to like trying to describe where something is, and like, well, I can't find it in the pod, or I don't see it. I'm like, look out the window. It's right there out of your left window.
Yeah.
So I think all of those, even for the Warbirds, all the tactics and all the concepts that work in there are applicable to everything else. They may not become the primary. Yeah, they might not be the primary thing that you're doing, but all the same concepts I think apply for the most part.
I know when we were flying the Warbirds, it has helped me with my spotting movement, and seeing planes below me around has really helped.
Yep.
And plus, you got to look at landmarks to figure out where you're at.
Yeah.
There's no GPS.
Yeah. Energy management.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the 47 is a blast for ground attack. And we'll fly where the 47s will do the ground attack, and the Mustangs will provide top cover. So there we got to coordinate between the two of us, the two groups, and there's no afterburner, so you got to plan.
It's funny you say that. So my kid said to me the other day, so I put him in there in the 18, and that's just great for him. He can hit in that F-18 on DCS and have a lot of fun. So he's flying, I forgot the name of it, on his iPad. And he picks like a Cessna 172. And he's like, it's too hard. I'm like, son, there's not you don't have a burner. There's no blower on that to just take you into the next year. So, but I think to your point that, you can certainly develop some better airmanship on those platforms than I think, don't be wrong, I think they're all great, but I think there's a lot to be had in the Warbirds too. It seems pretty cool.
Well, certainly getting away from fly-by-wire systems or even stability augmented systems is, just helps with your airmanship. And it's the same thing with, I tell people flying the F5 will build good habits. And you can say the same thing with the Warbirds, is that, they're tougher, but you can, even if you don't do well in combat, like yours truly, I'm usually I'm usually marking, here I'm coming in with the Mosquito. Here, I'll mark the target with black smoke. Now you guys know where the AAA is. But certainly just little details, watching RPMs, watching your manifold pressure, little stuff like that gives you a good scan, gives you an appreciation for everything, and then you're not just a HUD cripple when you get back in the jets. You are looking around. You are looking in and out and all over the place.
Yeah, you get that scan. You develop that instrument scan, which will help you in the jets. Absolutely.
And your gunnery gets better too, the aerial gunnery and deflection shooting, because it doesn't compute it. Well there's the gyro, but still.
That wasn't very popular in its time either.
So
most of us turning it off.
And do you guys have any of this? Is it all you were mentioning, Albie, about getting better? I just think I'm going blind, but as you're sitting there, being able to identify things. So when people start, do they ever go, "Hey, turn on uh, the symbols so I
Labels.
see where
Oh,
Wait,
your F-35 icon?"
I tell people, don't. There's no shame in flying with labels when you're getting used to it. Just as long as you are not using it as a crutch,
yeah,
because
Yeah.
trying to spot a pixel is an exercise in frustration until
Mhm.
you know what you're looking for.
When you're
Um,
train when you're training, yeah, certainly have the labels on. But when you're actually doing a campaign or you're doing a full-on mission, then don't expect the labels to be on. It depends on what level of realism you want.
but if you're just learning, I mean, you're like, okay, I thought I saw a speck there. Did I really see that? Go
Mhm.
back and and I tell people don't. I generally don't like the full label. I like just the dot.
Yep.
Yeah.
The little triangle.
And just okay, that is okay. And I say don't use that. Don't look for the dot to see where your enemy is. Try and build a picture in your head. Look where you think the guy is, and if there's a dot there, you can
Mm.
reinforce what you already knew. And that's how
Don,
you use it. Not as a crutch, but as validation of your training.
training tool. Don, you always say, eat the elephant one bite at a time,
Hmm.
right? And
Mm.
those labels can be one of the bites.
Hmm.
Um, have them on it. Knowing what's going on outside is going to help you learn how to do everything. But one of your goals should be to eventually turn them off. Right? Once you've gotten everything else, um, you're confident in doing the rest of the systems and knowing kind of in your mind where things are and how they're moving, that situational awareness. You can turn the main labels off, and then eventually you can turn the dots off too. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I did when I was
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think
I
the
was
other thing,
really excited when I finally got to turn the dots off. I feel like I've really learned now how to
yeah,
deal
the
how to
other
do
thing
this.
is too, some of it is your computer limitations as well.
Mm.
If your video card won't give you that resolution, then I mean, by all
Yeah.
means, until you can spend, $3,000-4,000 on the ultimate system that you're going to be able to see in the next week, then, certainly have the labels on. But I mean, like Don said, don't use it as a crutch. Just use it as a
yeah.
training tool.
Very cool. So I was gonna a couple of things I want to touch on, um, and Don will get to the skins in a bit. Not quite yet, but I want to talk about that. But there's some new stuff coming out pretty soon, um, and I was curious if you guys, curious if well, my computer just, I just had a hiccup. I don't know if you guys saw that.
We're good.
Mhm.
Can you still
Yeah,
see
We're
me?
good.
Okay,
We're good.
cool. So, so we have some new things coming out in DCS. There's going to be a cola map that looks pretty cool. So I think they're
Yeah.
already working on Baltic Dragon, and Reflected are working on a joint campaign for that. That looks pretty interesting. They're doing some updates to the South Atlantic map, and of course the F4. So what are you guys excited about?
I'm not
I
excited
want
at all about any of them.
None of them. Okay,
I, I think we found out one.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think we found out one person in the group hadn't pre-ordered the F4, and he got like shouted down until he
Yeah,
ordered it.
yeah,
So I'd say the F4 is probably
got banished.
yeah. So everybody's looking forward to that. We got some people that get modules just because they're almost like collectors, right?
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
enthusiasts, so they want to have it.
yeah.
From
How many
for
Henry do I have? Yeah.
for map design, the west coast of the South Atlantic map is very much like the Kola Peninsula is going to be.
Mm.
The thing
Hmm.
in the South Atlantic map, there's just not a lot out there. Right? It's mostly barren. There's only a couple cities, one or two airfields. There's not a lot to work with. So I think the Kola map, that kind of environment's really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm looking for the campaigns too. I already hit up Reflective. And it's like, oh, are we going to do an F-15 campaign? Come on. But you
Yeah.
said, well, there is a F-15E squadron in the campaign, so it's open. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yep.
Yeah, about
Hint,
a
hint.
week or so ago. I know I saw this before the South Atlantic was released. You could see it on the multiplayer menu that they were doing the testing online. I saw the Cola map being tested, so hopefully it's getting closer. Next couple of months that they had it online, that they were testing online. So that's a good sign. F4 excited about. F100 actually, I'm excited about the F100.
Yeah.
The Super Saber, and trying to do some coordination where it's the Fast Fac.
F4
The-
Corsair.
Ooh.
2
and the
weeks.
Corsair.
Corsair, just below the F4 is the thing I'm most excited about.
Yeah,
The other
the road starts right there.
so 2 F4s, right?
Yeah.
The year of the F4. No, it's interesting. I was watching. They put together the virtual the flight show. I was like, well, that was absolutely fantastic. I was watching them like, it's choreographed. I'm like, what a way to go. I mean, I was hats off to. I was like, they will flying that.
Sure.
Who was
Anytime I see one of those Heapler videos, I feel like I need a cigarette afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Touche.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also the Sky Raider. That's going to be nice too.
Yeah. I saw Rosman's the Tucano, Super Tucano cockpit shot the other day. It's like that looks fantastic too. So that seems really cool as well.
I think Rob, the point you bring up about the videos too, and we have a guy in our group, Bogey Dope, that makes fantastic videos.
Yeah, he's great.
We have a couple of other guys that dabble. Videos are a great training tool for new people, but they're also just a great way to get people interested in DCS. I mean, I've seen people that had no interest in airplanes at all watch a DCS video and go, "Wow, that looks really cool." So
now
all the people that put out those kind of
videos-
content, I think that's great because it really gets people's attention, it gets people's interest, and for us that are already in it, it's just really cool to watch.
Well, what was it? The one video somebody put out where they landed the MiG-29 on the carrier and they thought it was a real. They thought it was real.
Oh yeah.
No, it's amazing. I think I took some screenshots I came across the other day of the F-14 from a year ago, and the photorealism of it is amazing. So I think, Scott, you're spot on. I think just if people are a little bit interested in it, it's a good way to go and get them get started. If you've always had a passion for military aviation in some form or fashion, what a great way to go to check it out. I mean, and Home Fries and I didn't get a chance to catch up but I mean, for us, the authentic group, we meet out at Oceana, and I think that's going to be an annual thing for us to go to that air show because that was fantastic.
I'm looking forward to next year as well.
Yeah, so we definitely need to coordinate. You were there on Sunday. I was there. I was flying home on Sunday, so that didn't quite pan out. But boy,
And
I'll tell you.
Usually we end up just the way our vacation works. Usually end up going down on Saturday and then attending the show on Sunday.
Well, we'll make sure I will coordinate next time because I've got a client that's in the area, so I'm going to try to coordinate going to visit with them on that. But yeah, I think it's so Bogey Dope in terms of his F-16 videos are so concise and good, and I think he's got a great voice. He and Tricker to me both have a really Tricker's got a very interesting voice, or very deep voice. But I really appreciate Bogey Dope's videos because they've gotten me up to speed, certainly on F-16 stuff just like that. So it's been great. I always appreciate it.
Yeah, he makes great stuff, and they're concise. They're about 5 minutes.
And
he shows you how to do something.
And by the way, speaking of the air show, Rob, you catch that BO-105 doing the aerobatics? Speaking of the BO-105 coming out, hopefully.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the 105.
Do you guys ever have like a handful of videos that do you have internal videos that you've recorded or go look at Bogey Dope stuff? Or go look at
Well,
X, Y, or Z.
one of those things we were actually looking at creating like 1 minute videos for a bunch of things, and then uh, real life happened, and we kind of lost the bubble on that. But it's something that is on our radar. Um,
I actually installed OBS so
oh, nice.
on my system, so and I tested it with Striker and it works. I sent him a whole bunch of backseat F-14 stuff. So yeah.
So
I tried.
Diz your oh, go ahead, Sky.
I tried for a while to make videos of like what we were going to be training on, um, or startup videos and things. I'm terrible at it for one, and it's really time consuming. Like, I appreciate the guys that make those videos because it's
Mm.
a big time investment, and I couldn't add that into all the other things I was doing. But I think videos, especially if you can find the right one, because there's a lot of people out there making different ones. Bogey dopes are fantastic for the
Hmm.
16. If you can find the right video for the thing you're trying to teach somebody, I'll often send them the video before I even get online with them to try to show them what we're going to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll just say this is that I think that the good news and the bad news is that there's a lot of videos people are creating videos, and not all of the videos are created equal. So that's another kudos to Bogey. Like, I wouldn't want my training video, right? I would probably know less after I made my own training video. But but that being said, there's a lot of good stuff out there, and the fact that more people are creating it, certain things are going to resonate from one person perhaps more than somebody else. And while the community can have a tendency to be a little bit dramatic on from time to time, depending on content creator, I think it's great, and I think that kudos to the folks that invest the time, because this guy said it's not an easy thing to invest the time to do it. So I greatly appreciate all the folks that put the time in and do it.
There seems to me that there's a couple of go-to video content creators. One that comes to mind is Grim Reaper. Hello, valued viewers, and it's I faithfully I get a notification on YouTube. Okay, what's he up to? What's he up to now? And every couple of days it seems there's something new, and there's all kinds of nuggets in there that I'll actually furiously scribble down as he's going through. Okay, no, I got to see that again, and over, and I'll backtrack through it. That's what he's doing, and then of course that ends up in the Bible. So it's there are clearly a couple of go-to fellas that I see, and of course then on our Discord channel, guys will, hey, check this out, and of course then you have to go check it out on YouTube. Oh, and if it seems good, then you subscribe to that channel. You get all the other good stuff that comes in. So yeah, a couple of good go-to guys.
Yeah, every airframe has their own channel, so they'll post specific videos related to that airframe or discuss training. So there's several channels to choose from on topics.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's interesting, and also I think part of the challenge is what is right one week may be a little bit different depending on the how the aircraft is progressing in development.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You remember that video from 6 months ago? Well, it's wrong now.
Yeah.
Because the patch just came
It's
out and everything has changed. So
It's disinformation, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah. Well, that's great. So, is there anything? So, as we kind of wrap up here, and guys, again, thanks for your time today. But is there anything that anything you'd like to touch base with the community? Anything you'd like to communicate to folks that are out there that are thinking about getting started or getting started in multiplayer?
All right, we'll jump in with both feet on this. Just getting started in general. You don't, like I said before, you don't need to jump in with top of the line everything. Jump in with what you're comfortable with, understanding that you're probably going to outgrow it. And if you outgrow it, that's a good thing because that means you're getting interested in the topic and you want to go further. But yeah, just do what you can with what you have, and I'd say get a stick, get some sort of head tracking to start out with, get the frustration level down, and then just use a building block approach. You don't have to be Chuck Yeager in a day. Heck, Chuck Yeager wasn't Chuck Yeager in a day. I mean,
Cool.
he had to get there too. But yeah, just do what you can. And the other thing is, don't be intimidated to ask questions, because there are, yeah, there are jerks everywhere, but don't. They're the minority. Ask questions on the forums. People will help you out. People want to help you out. If you go to multiplayer, ask for help. There are people who are willing to assist. Don't just feel like you have to jump into the deep end and be intimidated by all these guys who speak a different language with all these brevity codes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Go ahead,
really
Sky.
echoing what Don said, like a head tracker is great, not just for, if you're somebody who's flying Microsoft Flight Simulator or X-Plane or anything like that, you'll find that a head tracker will change your experience in those as well. Right? So it's not just a DCS specific benefit, or space sims, like
Yeah, I was gonna say
Star
Elite.
Citizen or Elite. So head tracker, I would say, is definitely one of the bigger game changers when you do it. The basic throttle and stick, even with a twist rudder control, is really going to help you at the start. And like Don was saying, the key thing is don't get intimidated. That feels like a really steep learning curve, but it's not. I mean, there's a absolute ton to learn, but you can take your time to learn all that, right? You don't have to start running on the first day. Pick one thing to do, work on that, then pick the next thing. And a great thing about DCS is there's always a next thing. And you're never going to get to the point where you know everything or you're proficient at everything. And that's one of the things I think that is a big draw for a lot of people, is there's always something new. There's always something new to learn. And we have an embarrassment of riches right now when it comes to modules, to maps, to controller options. This is a really great time for DCS in particular, but flight sims in general. So I'd say mainly don't feel intimidated, because it's really not that bad.
There are
And
people who want to
as
help.
long as you're
Yeah,
as
there's
long
always
as
somebody that's going to help
yeah.
you out.
Yep.
And a group like ours, we got such a broad knowledge base. If you have a question about an computer operating system, right? Like my Windows is giving me a problem that's affecting DCS. We got a lot of
Right.
people that know that kind of thing, so that it's a community that's there to help you, not just with DCS or not just with a specific like F-16 or something in DCS. It's a group that can help in so many different ways just to make your whole gaming experience better, or simming experience. Some of our guys are going to yell at me because I said gaming.
Yeah.
Oh, please!
Well,
You
it's
can turn on your Walkman in the heat blur. It's a game. It may be a high fidelity game, but we do it for fun. Come on.
we do, yeah. And
If it was a simulator, we'd have to
Wait for it.
get our
It's
back check
also
every time we ejected.
it's also a simulator. Also a simulator house.
Yeah.
I
And
have to get
also
my
too,
back checked every time I get out of this chair, so
yeah.
it's not that far off.
And find a squadron and some folks that you gel with, and it just enhances the experience multiplayer instead of just flying around by yourself single player and just interacting. We have so much fun. I wouldn't be playing DCS if it wasn't for these guys, and I wouldn't have learned what I've learned, because I probably would have just given, because I had the A10 when it came out and didn't have much time until I met Stryker and joined the VAF. Then I learned the A10, and so several thousand hours later. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's
but
the
I
experience.
but I think that's the other piece, is that we could, people can banter back and forth about whether it's a game or it's a sim, but it's about the people, and I think that's one of the things that I've learned. I think, and going back and forth, and while I'm number 44, the thing that that's in my name, 44. But that's one of the things that that resonates with me, is it's about the people. So no matter
Yeah.
what you do that is worthwhile in life, it's generally about people. And as we were planning on recording a while back, and I had a bit of a medical emergency with my wife, and so. But here are nice guys who are like, hey, how's your wife do? They're not just like, let's talk about this and that. You're the real people asking real questions, and that really meant a lot to me. So as you look at, as you're out there looking at different groups to join, find the people that are going to do it. And even Casmo, who even, he's got his own channel and things that he's doing. He joined a group that was a really good fit for him. And that's made his experience so much better in terms of what he's been doing. So even for those folks that are finding their way through it, that have been doing this a while, they're having a new way to go. So, look at multiplayer, look at the people, find a good match. And I can only say great things about these folks. Well, I haven't flown with them yet. I can just certainly testify
hold your
to
judgment until.
That's true. And again,
you're flying with me on the F-15, right? So I get to be mother-in-law.
Yeah.
So hold your judgment.
Yeah,
I'm hard on pilots.
Yeah. I told Rob I wouldn't get jealous. With y'all flying together.
Yeah,
So
and also what I'm seeing here is a potential call sign review board 44.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
There you go.
guys, don't scare him off now. Come on, we almost got him in the next 2 weeks.
It could be worse. I mean, come on, it could be way worse.
It could be Princess.
Don, just promise me if he's doing it, you're going to be, the 2001, the old time. I can't do that, Rob.
Hal.
Hell, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
that's fantastic.
But Rob, you'll find when you fly multi-crew, just the experience. Home Fries and I, we have a lot of fun.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
We got the married couple bickering thing going down.
Yeah.
Oh.
When I fly with Wolfie up front, it's like we're just arguing back and forth, and sometimes it's on Discord, and guys go, "For God's sake, will you guys shut up?"
Yeah, go to SRS. One of the things, Don and I've flown a lot together, so we got a dance going, right? Everything's. We already kind of know what the other person's doing. We have our responsibilities. We don't have to talk about it. While he's looking for a target on the ground, I'm watching the radar, look air to air, looking out, make sure I don't fly into a sand bubble.
Or into a mountain.
Yeah.
We won't mention any names.
Yeah.
That's it.
That was training, right? That was training. Yeah. Well, but.
Oh man.
I think you said it well, Robin. It's you find something that fits you. Right? Don't be afraid if you join a group and it just doesn't feel right or it doesn't feel like it fits. There's a lot more out there, and each one's going to have a slightly different feel to it. So find the group that fits you, and I think that's gonna give you the best feeling when you're spending your time with them.
And that's like what we tell people. It's like don't look to impress us to see if we want you as a member. Look at us to see if we are a fit for you. That's what we tell everybody who comes on our channel.
That's great. And I think that's a great place for us to stop for this session. But again, guys, thanks again for joining me today. And I look forward to getting going in the next week. I'm going to just say, let's get this.